Hi, I'm Jean Ann Duckworth, and it's time for my Wednesday message in a closet. It's September. Autumn is here, or if it isn't where you are, it will be soon. And it is a season of change. So much happens in autumn that brings about change. The leaves change colors, the temperatures begin to change, and we even change time. But change is something that most of us fear. We get very comfortable with the way life is, and we just don't want anything to change. But unfortunately, life cannot exist in a stagnant pool. In other words, there has to be change in order for life to exist. And that's why we need to learn how to deal with change in a more effective and positive way. This month, I'm talking about change. Last week, I did just a little introduction on change, explaining how it works and why it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. This week, I want to talk about how it is God looks at change and how He wants us to see the change that He brings into our life. Today's verse is from Isaiah chapter 43, starting at verse 18, and I'm reading from the Good News translation. But the Lord says, do not cling to events of the past or dwell on what happened long ago. Watch for the new thing I am going to do. It is happening already. You can see it now. I will make a road through the wilderness and give you streams of water there. What I like about this, you have to hold on a minute. Mimi Cat wants in. Come on, Mimi. She likes to come in the closet with me, and I encourage her because she's a good prayer partner. The first thing I want you to notice about this verse is the fact that God tells us that in order to be able to move ahead, to be able to embrace change, we have to let go of the things of the past. And that can be tough. We have a tendency to hang on to the past, whether it's because we really enjoyed it, we really liked what happened in the past and we just can't let go of it, or too often it's because we bear a grudge and we just can't let that grudge go. Those grudges, they eat at us and they wear away at us, and it becomes like a huge stone that you carry around, this weight. And it makes it impossible for you to move on. You need to let go of the things of the past. If it's something good, it doesn't mean you have to forget about it completely. But good sometimes means comfortable, and comfortable means that we've become stagnant. It's like, I think last week I talked about the fact that one of the reasons I hate having to buy new shoes is right when they get really comfortable and I really like them, they get worn out enough where I need to replace them. And then I have to go through the process all over again. It can be painful. We like that comfort. We like the way it feels. We like the fact that we know all the little bumps and dips and exactly where our feet go, and we've stretched our shoes out where they don't rub in places anymore. We know exactly how to do that in life so that it's not as painful anymore, and we're very comfortable. And you don't want to move. But God is saying that we can't cling to the events of the past or dwell on what happened long ago. And when I read that, like I said, I know a lot of it has to do with sometimes we want things to be like they used to be. And you hear that all the time. Why can't things be the way they used to be? Well, they're not. We move on. Things change. But more important, it's when I read, dwell on what happened long ago. When we dwell on things, we tend to fret about it. We let it eat at us. We keep focusing. We keep going back to it time and again. And it's difficult to move on from that. So you have to learn to let go of the past so that you can move on and embrace the change that God is bringing in your life. The second thing that Isaiah, well, actually, the Lord is telling us to do is that we should feel the excitement at the change that is coming into our lives. Uh, God tells us in Isaiah, watch for the new thing I am going to do. It is happening already. You can see it now. In some translations, I love the way it words it. God says to us, can't you see it? He's excited, really excited about what it is he's doing in our lives. He's pointing it out to us, and he's saying to us, look, look, look what I'm doing. Can't you see it? Aren't you paying attention? I guess in one part, one of the things he's saying is he wants us to pay attention to what's going on in our lives. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the change that is occurring, and we don't take an active role in it until things have already passed us by. And then it might be too late. Instead, he wants us to wake up and be excited about the change he's bringing into our lives. Now, you might say, well, sometimes that's tough. I lost my job or something else happened. I know there are some changes when somebody in the family passes away. This isn't the kind of thing God's talking about. God is talking here about when we are stuck in a rut, when we aren't taking care or doing the things that he's been calling us to do. So he's bringing about change for us to teach us that it's time for us to move on, that we need to let go of the things of the past and look what I'm doing in your life. When I always tell people, I remember one of the very first classes that I took in seminary, the very first day we had to pair up with people and talk about how we became Christians. And the young woman I was with told this great story about accepting Christ when she was in college and being involved in Campus Crusade for Christ. And she went to school here in Southern California. They'd go to the beach and they'd pray with people and they'd share tracts and all that. And I just listened to her in awe. And then she finished and she looked at me. Well, I didn't have a story like that. Another time I'll tell you my story. I said, I can't really tell you anything like that. Although when I told her my story, she really liked it. I said, but I will tell you how I came to accept God's call to ministry. And I'm going to do the short version. I went in the Navy. I was going to go to engineering school, and nothing was working out. It was going to take me 5 years after the Navy if I didn't start taking classes while I was in the service. And every time I signed up for classes, something happened. So finally, I got really frustrated, and in a moment of anger, I just screamed at him, "What is it you want from me? What am I supposed to be doing?" And I was frustrated, so I shut up. And he said, well, now that you're listening, I'll tell you. And that's when he called me to ministry. And I looked at the young woman and I said, I wasn't called to ministry. I said, God hit me with a 2x4. Sometimes that's what he has to do. He kept saying to me, look what I'm doing. Don't you see it? And I didn't see it. I refused to look at it. And I wouldn't let go. I had this idea from the past. I had certain ideas I couldn't let go of. Even now, as I start this new ministry, I had a friend wanted to know, why is this time going to be different? Well, mainly it's going to be different because I've come to the realization I'm getting older, and if I don't do it now, I won't have a chance. But more than that, I'm trying to cope with the fact that I just harbored so much bitterness for so long. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I did. And it was, if you've ever seen A Christmas Carol and how Marley has all those chains and things hanging from him, that's about how I felt. I just dragged through life because I was so bitter about so many things, and there's still things I get angry and bitter about, and I'm trying to learn to let go of it. I'm trying to stop clinging to events of the past. I was looking for the words. And I'm trying to watch for the way God's working in my life now, because this is going to be new. And I know he's excited about it, because when I go here in the closet and I turn out the lights and I sit alone, or if Mimi comes in with me and I pray, I can feel his excitement. I might not have a clear vision of where we're going on this journey, at least step by step, but I cling to the fact that he knows where we're going, and that's all that matters. So, number one, let go of the past. Number two, start getting excited about the change God is bringing to your life. Finally, in this verse, God says to us, I will make a road through the wilderness and give you streams of water there. Uh, we need to look around and see what it is God's already done in our lives, because usually when he's bringing about change, uh, you start to see signs that it's coming. Sometimes they're not obvious. Sometimes they're real obvious. When I was working at the church and they laid me off, I knew it was coming. I could see the signs. I knew change was about to happen. It doesn't mean it made it easy, but I could see it. Did I get excited about it? No, not so much. It was not only the church where I worked, it had been my church home for 18 years. And one day I was there and the next day I was on the outside, and it hurt. It was hard. But you can look around and see the changes, and it's kind of the writing on the wall moment for you. I've been teaching a Bible study for on Tuesday evenings at my church for, I don't know, 5-6 years now, something like that. We meet every Tuesday evening. We meet in this building that's adjacent to our church campus that we bought. It used to be the Y in our community. And our church, like a lot of churches, it's older, it's getting smaller, the congregation is aging, and we were having financial problems. So without going into the whole story, we've gone into a partnership with some people, and we've sold part of the property. We're going to be able to work with them in conjunction, but the place where we meet will be used for them to be able to make money. It won't belong to our church anymore, which means I have to find a new place for my Bible study. And at first, when I realized that, it hurt. It hurt a lot. Now I'm able to look at it and realize, and let me backtrack. It hurt, and it caused me, as the verse says, to dwell on some other things that had happened in the past, and just kind of stirred things up, not just at my current church, but where they laid me off, and just a lot of different things. It isn't easy being a woman in ministry, and it stirred up a lot of things for me. But once I settled down, I realized that God was telling me, you've wasted enough time. You really need to break out. You need to start your ministry once and for all. And this is a starting point. We know we have a few months before escrow closes and they start doing things. And so that's why I started doing these things here online, to get in the habit of having classes and doing these messages. And because I had gotten out of the habit of doing it, I had gotten lazy, and I admit it. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I had. Slothfulness, yes, one of those deadly sins. I admit to it. But suddenly I had a deadline, and I need to find a place where I can do this. And I realize I have options. One of the things is we moved into our home, and I can have the class meet here. Is my home ready for them to come here? No, not by any stretch of the imagination, which gives me another deadline. And that's good, because it's easy to coast and it's easy to not do these things. And it's easy for me to sit down and think, poor little me, I'm tired of this. This always keeps happening to me. I mean, this verse is so perfect. Bear in mind, preachers always preach to themselves. They may not admit it, but they do. Because I am clinging on past events. I do dwell on what happened in the past. And it was easy to feel sorry for myself. Instead, I'm working to get excited about this. I am excited about this. I need to move on, and I'm excited to move on. And this is forcing me. People keep telling me, well, you know, you might be able to stay there. No, I'm ready. It's time to move on. It's time for a change. It isn't always easy, and I admit that. Change hurts. Change is very painful. But in this verse from Isaiah, God is trying to tell us that, number one, we have to let go of the past in order to be able to move forward in life with change. That, number two, God's excited about this change, and that we need to embrace that excitement. And number three, we need to start looking for the little signs of the changes, of the change he's bringing to our life. Like me having to find a new place to do Bible study, and me being able to do more things online. There's more opportunity to do these things. All this is really exciting, and I know it's time to move on. We want to start looking at change in a positive way, and I know that's not always easy for everybody. And next week, we're going to talk about a group of people who were not only not happy about change, were not only clinging to the past, but they became not just angry, but, well, violent. And what's strange about it is their anger pushed things to a point where it brought the change about even faster. So you just never know. So join me next Wednesday when I will bring you another message from the closet. Until then, I'm Jean Ann Duckworth, wishing you a life filled with simple joy. You have a great week.